Get higher, baby. Get higher, baby. Get higher, girl. Hey.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Knights of the Pageless Library. We are a little podcast dedicated to reviewing audiobooks. I am Bo Knight, and with me, as always, is my brother Ryan Knight. And today we're taking a look at the classic, The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury, narrated by Mark Boyette. I think is how you say his last name.
That's how I would say it. Looks correct to me. Sounds correct to me, I should say. So before we even get started, so I seen something in our email from YouTube that says a way to make your stuff more popular is to like put your tags all right at the front. So here's your upfront for everyone. You know, the usual, like we always say, the emails, follow us on YouTube, Twitter, all those things. We'd really appreciate it. Now, we'll get on to the show.
Yes. So yeah, The Martian Chronicles. Oh man.
So, this one's an interesting book. This is a collection of stories, or a chronicle, if you will, by Ray Bradbury. It's a collection of quite a few short stories that are actually condensed down, but they were all written at like vastly different times.
Yeah, and Ray Bradbury had no intention of actually linking them together. His publicist was like, "You should just make a big book out of these," and he was like, "Okay."
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That does make way more sense then.
Yeah, me too. I totally agree with that because it kind of seems like there's a through line, but then I'm like, wait a minute, but that doesn't make any sense.
There's
Yeah.
there's a few names that are through lines, but for the most part I was like, what?
Yeah. What?
Okay, so for the rest of you who are like, what are you guys talking about? So, uh like I said, this one's tough because it's like a series of what, 12 or more short stories.
I think so.
And the book is okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. So this one was uh published. This is the hard part. It was published in like 1945, 46, 48, 49, 50, 72, 74, 75, 76, and 77. So obviously there's a large gap in there.
Well, The Martian Chronicles itself came out in 1950. Like the whole collection of them together
Okay.
came out in 1950.
So then it was republished multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
But the short stories were obviously written at different times as well.
They were like you said, like over what, like a 3-year period.
I mean from 45 to 50, and then there's a big skip. There's a skip then from 50 to 72, and it was republished again. So yeah, and I don't know if it was republished again by Ray Bradbury or what. The version we are reviewing from Audible was published in 2014. So just so you have that information. And again, Ray Bradbury, we reviewed Fahrenheit 451. So if you're interested in anything by Ray Bradbury, please go check out our episode about that. Let us know what you thought.
And if you don't know what kind of books he writes, then you don't like books.
That's kind of a good point.
I mean, come on. Like, if you didn't read any of his books in high school, then you didn't have a teacher.
That's actually, yeah, a good point. I mean, Ray Bradbury is known for these sort of like, I would say they're kind of like weird, dystopian and
yeah, but like oddly spot on.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I agree. Because
for how old this shit is, I feel like this dude could see into the future.
Yeah, I would agree with that actually, especially after listening to this. Okay, so let's get to the big question. What did you think about Mark Boyette as the narrator of this?
I think he does great. For like a lot of the nonsense that he has to say, he does a great job.
Yeah, I thought so too. Actually, I thought he did an excellent job. because this is a ton of characters.
Oh yeah.
This is literal aliens,
Mm-hmm.
and this is alien names, which was hilarious to hear
Yeah,
him
like
do.
Mr.
Mr. T.
Yeah.
Dude, so good. I actually thought it was an extremely good performance.
And there's a wide range of characters here, and he voices them all differently and distinctly. He does a really good job.
Yeah, I thought so too, especially because in each short story, the minimum you're going to be introduced to really quickly is like 5 characters.
Yeah.
And I pretty quickly, could get a hold of different voices even just for those simple 5 characters or so. Like, and it only gets better from the beginning. So yeah, hats off to Mr. Mark Boyette for this one. This one's pretty good. And I mean, I would think this is a pretty big title to have under your belt for him. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I would assume so. And probably anything Ray Bradbury.
Sure. So this book clocks in right at 7 hours and 43 minutes. So, I mean, I put that's kind of like the sweet spot for a book, in my opinion, as far as like a good quick listen.
Yeah. Yeah, like your standard non-obsessed listener probably would get through this in like a week.
Exactly. Yeah. If you can only listen about an hour a day or so, you're going to get through this one pretty quickly. And I think that's a good length of time. I think between 8 and 10 hours is a nice short listen. And then anything like 12 hours and up, you're getting into more of like a dedicated listen. But so this one falls under that category. This book seems longer than that though.
It does somehow.
I think it's because you're getting so many stories in that amount of time.
And like Ray Bradbury to me is like the master of saying a lot with not very many words.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I felt the same way about Fahrenheit 451.
Yeah.
Like I really enjoyed that book, and I think you're right because that's actually a pretty short book as
It was
well.
only like 5 hours, I think.
Right. So you're getting a ton of content in a very short amount of time, and I think that's really awesome. So what do you see on the price for this one? You seen a price?
Not seeing anything, actually.
So again, as always, you could sign up, for Audible and get this with your free with your 30-day trial. Or it looks like you could purchase this one for $19.95.
Dang, it's only $20. I kind of thought it would be more than that.
I mean, we pretty much throw out free like Audible sponsorships here, but seriously, like if you enjoy audiobooks, there's no reason not to have Audible. So
yeah, like I know I've said this before, but like, what do you use? Maybe you just pirate them all, I guess, but don't do that.
And that's possible. And again, if you listen to this book and it's narrated by someone other than Mark Boyette, then your mileage is going to vary a lot compared to ours. So just be aware of that.
Very true.
If you just listen to some random guy on YouTube reading this book and you're like, man, that guy didn't sound good at all. Well, just know that we listened to the professional version of it.
Yeah, not just some dude in his basement reading it for you.
Right. So what do you think? Easy to follow?
No,
not at all. I agree.
But you should know that coming into a Ray Bradbury book. It's like you're not gonna be able to like sit and freaking like drink lemonade and fucking not pay attention if you want to know what's going on.
I think the hardest part of this one to follow for me was the fact that the stories, even though they're in chronological order, are so disconnected.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean it makes sense because they're all just short stories that were not intended to be like an overarching story that were kind of like forced into it, I think.
I mean, the only thing that really is the through line is the fact that it's like it starts out as, the first one is 2001 and then the next one is 2002 and 2003 and so on. But then like, and we'll get into this a little bit more when we talk about the stories, like the time that has clearly passed on Mars, very confusing. So I still don't really know what was going on.
Yeah, don't know either.
So yeah, definitely. This book is dense. There's a lot going on here, so I would not recommend this for like a beginner listener, that's for sure.
No, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's pretty complicated. But I mean, do you want to get into recommendations?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't recommend this for like your first audiobook by any means, but I would highly recommend this for anyone who either enjoys like kind of high fiction stuff like this, sci-fi type stuff, and even that's a stretch to say because this isn't really like a he pulls out his laser pistol and shoots the other guy's wrist shield like his plasma shield. Like it's not that kind of sci-fi really in the long run. This is kind of like dense storytelling and it's really well done.
Yeah, I fully agree. Yeah, you do make an interesting point that it is sci-fi, but like the sci-fi stuff is almost just like setting. It's not really like super important to the story.
Right. And actually, as the story progresses, the sci-fi kind of fades to the background and it's
Yeah.
more just stories of people, interestingly enough.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but so yeah, so a recommendation from you, definitely a recommendation from me. So yeah, if you guys agree with that, disagree with that, please let us know what you think. We would love to hear it. kotpl.pod@gmail.com is the easiest way to let us know that.
Yeah, please do email us. We would really appreciate it.
Yeah, and so with that, let's go ahead. We'll pass a spoiler wall. So for anybody who's new here, that just means we're gonna kind of spoil the whole story. So if you don't want to spoil for you, go check this one out, and then when you're done, please come back here and listen to what we have to say about it.
Yeah, just that's funny. Like on a show, we basically tell people not to listen to our stuff.
Yeah, who else does that? Who else gives you the courtesy of saying,
Nobody.
don't let us spoil it for you because we really like, and trust me, we'll let you know. Like, if our spoilers are enough for you, we'll let you know. Um, yeah. So with that, definitely right up front, big time trigger warning, by the way,
Oh,
for
dude, I'm glad you mentioned that.
yeah.
Because honestly, it surprises. I listened to this book twice, and each time it comes to that story, it surprises me because it like starts on that.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's like the first sentence, I
It
think.
is.
Yeah. So just so everybody knows, like if your feelings are easily bruised by words, then there are some parts in this book that are going to hurt your feelings. And it's probably more or less a product of its time, but I'm just front loading you. They do say the N word multiple times in one of these stories, and it is used in a derogatory way. But however, I am appreciative of the fact that this is not like censored yet. You know what I mean? Because I
Right.
do think this is a product of its times. And I don't think it's healthy to like if we erased this book simply because it had that, it had offensive words in it, I think that's a huge step backwards.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, do you want to talk about that story right now?
Why don't we start at the beginning? I just wanted to front load that because otherwise I would forget up until we were talking about that. So just so everybody knows, like, and I probably should have mentioned this at the beginning of the episode, this
Yeah, now it
heavy,
just seems kind of out of place now.
yeah, but I mean, seriously, trigger warning on you if you're sensitive to that kind of stuff. So, but let's start at the beginning. So the first story is 2001, correct?
Is it 2001? I thought it was like 1990 something.
You could be right. I'm gonna unprofessionally look this up real quick because each story has a different name. I feel like that's important that each story is named something specific. Um, Why can't I find it?
Yeah, February 1999.
Okay. Okay. That sounds right. Okay. So in that first story, we start out though from the point of view of the Martians, right?
Yeah, like a married couple who I get the vibe they're not very like happily married. And we get like lots of like beautiful details about like their lives on Mars. Like I love the detail about like the magnetic dust that
Yeah,
they talk about, like stuff like that. Like he doesn't dwell on any of these things, but they definitely have like a whole different lifestyle. But it's painted as normal, like kind of like dreary normal life going on.
sure.
But the wife starts having dreams, or I don't know if they're dreams or visions of like human men coming to Mars and like talking to her.
Right.
And
And
I don't know how much this ties into the next story. So I don't know if this is in like I don't know if she's hallucinating these things.
I see, I don't fully understand it either. Um because she's like talking about seeing these humans, which we should mention that the Martians pretty much look just like humans, except they have like what, like brown skin and yellow eyes.
Yeah,
That's
and I
the
think
only like,
they're short and like thin.
okay, yeah, that's the only like, because the way they describe the humans that they see is she says he was tall and white skinned with blue eyes. So those are the only defining things that we get of these Martians. However, from the vague description, they pretty much look just like people because, as we'll find out later, they can easily be confused for humans.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah, I mean, okay, so the first story is actually just the vignette, and it's called January 1999 Rocket Summer. And it's just the vignette that sets up the kind of what's going on with the rocket launch. The next one is called February 1999, and it's called Yilla. That's the Martian's name. And that's the Martian in question. And yeah, this story did confuse me, and it's a really hard one to start on because I'm like, did this happen? Because don't we then jump over to when the humans get there and it's exactly what she was envisioning?
Some of the names are right.
Yeah, that's right. The names are the same. But that's in like in the next story, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Which is called the Earthmen.
Yes.
So this is the first supposed surviving crew that gets there. But that's what's strange to me though, is right, these guys talk about the mission before them though.
Yeah,
how
and we
those
never figure out what happened to those two guys.
right, how those guys died. Yeah, so
Or they could still be alive. I mean, they could. I'm not even being. I'm just kidding. This book is so weird.
I know, and I agree. So in the second mission to Mars, the Earthmen, these guys land, and this one, remind me, are these the guys who, yeah, these are the guys who go and talk to the aliens, and they're like, the aliens don't give a shit that they're there, right? The Martians don't?
Yeah, well, they like knock on someone's door and they're like, "Hey, we're here from Earth." And they're like, "I don't have time for your like nonsense. Like, like I got like crystal buns in the oven. Like, please go away."
Oh,
And they keep knocking on different doors and they eventually get sent to like one of the guys. I can't remember what his name is.
so this is the one we were kind of mentioning in the beginning. She's like, you need to go see Mr. It,
Yeah.
or Mr. Like, so these are all these aliens, or the, excuse me, Martians are just 3-letter names, XXX, UUU, those things. And it's very funny. And I think that the narrator does an amazing job in this one.
Mhm.
But the overarching story of this is not funny at all.
No, it's horrifying.
Yeah, exactly.
So what we end up like finding out is that so they get sent. they meet with a guy and they like sign some paperwork, and he even says like, okay, it's all signed, so like euthanasia might be our only option. And he's like, what was that? And they're like, oh, just okay, like here. He gives them a key, and they had asked for a key to the city because that's what they just wanted some praise for being like the first people to make it to Mars is what they were looking for.
Yeah, because the Martians are just like, whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're from Earth, whatever. And
They don't
like,
even say that. They just like immediately dismiss them.
right, yeah, and it is a strange story because obviously, like, if Martians landed here, yeah, Earth would go insane. We would all go insane over this, and the Martians just like, oh yeah, okay, whatever you say, guy.
So they go and they finally like get the praise they want, right? They go to this facility and they're like telling their story and people are like going crazy and they're like, oh man, it's amazing to meet other people from Earth. And they're like, wait a minute, you guys are from Earth too? And then they like slowly realize that everybody there says they're from Earth and they're all describing Earth incorrectly because
Right.
where they've been taken is an insane asylum.
Yeah, because everybody just assumes they are other Martians that are having like hallucinations and they're insane.
Because hallucinations like that Martians have are so powerful that other people can see them.
Right, because they're telepathic
Mhm.
generally. So they assume that the captain of this mission is having such a powerful hallucination that he's changed the way he looks, and his 3 crew members are also hallucinations that other people can see. That's why the one part where he's like, does my crew need to sign? And he laughs at him. He's like, oh, no.
Yeah.
And this gets so dark because Mr. XXX, who is the therapist, he's like, they take him to their crashed rocket ship, and he's like, man, this is amazing. Such powerful hallucination. It even feels real. And he's like knocking on the hull of the spaceship. He's like, the only way for me to get you out of this basically is to kill him. So he shoots the captain. He kills him. And the rest of the crew members are obviously blown away by this. And the Mr. XXX is like, wow, that's incredible. You guys are still here. I thought you'd disappear immediately after his hallucination stopped. So he proceeds to kill all 3 of them. And then the spaceship and everything still exists. So Mr. XXX kills himself because he now thinks he is hallucinating the whole thing.
I thought he shoots the spaceship and it ricochets and kills him.
Oh no, I'm pretty sure he kills himself on purpose because he thinks it's all part of his own hallucination now.
Oh, okay. I thought he shot the spaceship and because it says like a shot rings out and the spaceship is still there. I thought he was trying to get rid of the spaceship, so he shoots it and it ricochets and kills himself. But
Yeah,
that makes more sense.
No, he definitely just kills himself, and the spaceship obviously doesn't go away because it was real. So, yeah, pretty dark start to this one.
Yeah, the next one's pretty dark too.
So is this the taxpayer? So this is the hard part for me because I'm reading off a list. I'm not gonna lie.
Let's just skip the taxpayer. It's just like a little. The guy just wants to go on a rocket. It's like all it is.
Right. So some of these are incredibly short because they are like preludes to something later, basically. The next one is called the Third Expedition. And okay, which one is this?
So this is the one they land and everything looks just like it did on Earth. Like a specific town from Ohio that most of them are from. It looks like identical to that.
Okay.
Yeah. And they even knock on a door and talk to a lady, and she's like, "Oh, we're here in America, in Ohio," and like it's the year 1929, I think.
And it's the one guy's like grandma, right?
No, not yet. They see them later on the street.
Okay. Right. Okay.
But yeah, but they talk to that lady, and she kind of gets fed up with them, as you would if someone was like knocking on your door. It's like, "What year is it?"
Right.
Get out of here, you fucking spaz.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, they catch a glimpse of one of the guy's grandparents on like that are hanging out there, and so like the captain and this guy go and talk to them, and they say they showed up here when they died, like they died on Earth and they just
Right.
appeared here on Mars.
Yeah, like they're spirits or something. Yeah.
And like he goes to like rally his crew members who are supposed to be like taking care of the rocket ship, and they've all abandoned the ship because they've all been like they've all met old family members on this place.
Right. And then the captain eventually ends up meeting like his brother, right? Who was supposed to be dead. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. That's right. But then he ends up going to the house, right? And staying the night. And he gets up in the middle of the night because he's like, this is crazy, I have to go do something about this. And isn't his brother like, what are you doing? You can't leave.
Well, I think we should explain a little. That the captain is like thinking this whole time. He's like, what would be the best way to disarm somebody if you really hated them? Would it be to like impersonate something that they would have
Yeah.
no way of questioning because they wanted it so bad? So they
Right.
impersonate family that is long dead because you wouldn't question getting to see your mom that had been dead for 20 years.
Right. And this is so basically this is all like a hallucination telepathically projected to these guys from the Martians.
See, I don't know if it's a hallucination or if they're all the doppelgangers from that thing later.
Oh, that could be. Yeah. That could be too.
But this is where it gets really weird because it's like there's like a couple different weird things that are happening on Mars constantly.
Yeah. I mean, either way, at the end of this one, right? All those guys die too in this
Yeah.
crew.
Mhm.
They're all
Yeah,
killed.
like you said, the captain tries to leave, and it's really ominous. It's like he runs for the door, he never makes it.
Right.
Yeah, and then it like talks about like the mayor talking the next day, but he's like shifting forms as he's speaking.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where I thought it was maybe like a hallucination, but yeah, you could be right. It could just be like
Well,
the
only
way
because
they do things.
that comes up again later that there's that one guy is or whatever that thing is basically does the same thing but for like individual people.
Right.
But yeah,
that's true. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if they're supposed to be that related. So who knows?
So the next story is and the moon be still as bright. And this one is the with Captain Wilder. And is this the one where the one guy? Yeah. So they show up on Mars. This is another crew of men. And I think this is the one where they show up and most like everything looks like they're long dead cities, right?
Yeah, for like centuries.
Yeah, which is strange because the previous story took place in April of 2000. This one takes place June 2001, so a mere year later. But on Mars, it looks as if centuries have passed and these Martians have all died of what the one doctor describes as the chicken pox, right?
Yeah.
So that's right. One of his crew members, basically these guys all start like partying and they're excited because they're on Mars. And the one guy's like, I'm gonna name this city over here because it's like already an established city, but it's dead. There's no one there. But he's like, I'm gonna name this whatever after himself. And one of his crew members gets upset because he's like, if Earth comes here, we're going to do the same thing to this planet that we did to our own, and we're going to ruin it.
Right, and he's a what? Oh my God, archaeologist. So he's like really interested in the history of all of this.
Right.
And he's like immediately butthurt about the fact that like as we would as Americans, we would come here and ruin all this, and we'll rename everything even though everything already has names, and we'll trash the place just like we trashed our planet.
Right. He also ends up finding like writing and stuff, right? And he learns the Martian language like super fast. And he's like,
supposedly it's easy because it's like emojis. It's just
that's how I understood it. Yeah, it was like emojis. But this guy, Spender is his name. He finds himself really connected with like this Martian history. and he gets so mad that all these guys, all they want to do is ruin the Martian history and try to put humanity over the top of it, that he actually decides he's going to kill everyone on his own expedition.
Yeah, and we find out a little more why he thinks that's a good idea.
Yeah, well, because the captain ends up having like a heart-to-heart with him, and yeah, basically he basically does like an Avatar situation where he feels more connected with the Martians than he does with the humans now. And
Yeah.
so he thinks that the humans need to die for wanting to desecrate this Martian land.
Yeah.
But they end up killing Spender. Spender ends up dying. And if I remember right, one of these guys is the one who said he was going to open his hot dog stand, and that comes up later, right?
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
I'm pretty sure that's this one where it carries through to one of the other stories.
But like, doesn't the captain turn on the guys at the end? Because he's kind of sympathetic towards the other guy.
Yes.
He like turns on them at the end, and then it just ends.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It definitely ends when the captain like changes his mind like about continuing with the mission. But it ends abruptly.
Yeah, because it says like he pushes Park Hill to the ground and then
Yep.
it's over.
Exactly. Yep.
But I mean, there were more details because like especially when they're hunting that guy down, he has like a clear shot on him, but he finds himself aiming his gun at the other guys.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, this book is like so rich with those little details. There's so many of them.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like you could listen to this 10 times and not catch them all.
Yeah, because just Ray Bradbury is just a genius, dude. He's a genius.
Right. And again, pretty short stories. Like all of these these stories probably clock in around an hour or so, maybe a little less. So that's a lot of information in one, in a short story. So the next one is called The Green Morning.
All right, this one, in my opinion, is meh.
Is this like the Johnny Appleseed?
Exactly. It's Johnny
okay.
Apple Mars.
Johnny Apple Mars. Oh, that's right. Because they're obviously, the missions are getting more and more successful to Mars after the previous one. So because this is later in the same year in 2001. So now they actually are going to start terraforming Mars to make it more inhabitable for humans. Even though we find out from the beginning in this book, Mars, like they can breathe the air on Mars. It's just really difficult.
Right. Well, like this story is about like a guy, right, who they were going to send him home because he had a hard time breathing.
Yes.
The atmosphere wasn't rich enough in oxygen, so he decides to plant trees for other people who come so they won't have to deal with that like he does.
Right. He's going to try to basically grow like, and he find out too, like he puts the seeds, he like just goes out and he's planting tons and tons of seeds, and he turns around and there's already trees that are like 20 feet tall behind him.
Yeah, I feel like all of these stories have some sort of like time distortion that's going on. It's never really like stopped and explained at all.
Not at all.
Because it almost seems like all of the stuff that was like at the beginning that was happening on Mars is happening simultaneously with this stuff that the Earth people are doing.
Right. Yeah, because it doesn't make a lot of sense because like I said, we're only a few years after the first mission, but all the Martians are long dead.
Yeah.
Even though in the beginning they were alive. So it's very strange. Let's see. The next big story. I'm skipping over a couple of the like short interlude ones because I probably couldn't remember much about them because they're really short. The next one's called The Night Meeting.
Oh yeah, so this is what I was talking about with like the time distortion stuff.
Okay, so you go ahead.
So this one's about like a guy who was working and he's like going to a party and he like just talks to this old guy in the beginning. It's kind of nice, I guess. He's talking about like this old timer who moved to Mars because he was bored on Earth essentially, but everything's interesting on Mars because you've never been there, so everything is new to you. But like while he's on his way to a party, he meets a Martian on one of the roads, and they like try to talk to each other, but they can't. And then they like establish like a telepathic link, and he offers him a cup of coffee, and the Martian goes to grab it, and his hands go through it, and it falls and hits the ground. And then the Martian like takes a knife and throws it at this guy, and it goes through him. It doesn't touch him. And then they kind of like start explaining like what they see in the world to get like to each other. And it's way different. Like the Martian, like the whole world is vibrant. There are Martians everywhere. He doesn't see the humans that are there, and it's exact opposite for the other guy. He doesn't see the Martians. So he like I don't know, like because I feel like these two things are happening simultaneously, but they can't affect each other. I don't know.
Yeah, and this story is very interesting because yeah, like the Martian is like, I'm going to a party on whatever the ocean something something, and the human is like, you mean the Dead Sea over there? There's nothing there. It dried up centuries ago. And the Martian's like, I'm looking right at it. The ocean's right over there. So, and then on the flip side, the human is like, oh yeah, I'm heading over to the city of whatever right over here. And the Martian's like, there's nothing out there. That's nothing but wasteland. So this story was confusing. However, once you think about like what you're saying, there's a lot of time distortion. This story makes more sense than most of them do. So
Yeah, this one. Yeah, I don't know like what's going on with the Martians. Because it almost seems like to me the Martians might just be humans, just like later down the line.
well, yeah, and that is one like theory I would say. Well, and isn't that the one guy's theory that space travel has been around for centuries and yet the science was lost until these guys start showing up? But he's like, maybe these Martians are humans from centuries ago who have been living here, and established here a long time ago.
But that's not quite what I mean. I mean like that Martian civilization that fell was just was the human civilization that they're setting up now.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Interesting.
That's my theory. Because the one that they mentioned that is the one where that's the one where they're like impersonating that town, where they're tricking them.
Yes. Yeah.
For I don't know why, what ends to what means that is, but
And they all died from chickenpox COVID.
I guess.
Chickenpox 19. Okay. So let's see. Yeah, so these two guys, nothing's really like decided in this. They basically both agree to disagree that they are neither of them is alive or dead. Because they know, because like the human's like, you're clearly dead, I'm alive. And the Martian's like, no, you're clearly dead, I'm alive. So since neither of them can prove that, they literally just are like, whatever, man, see you later. And they go their separate ways.
Have fun at your party.
Right. Yeah. And then that brings us into our next story. Let's see, is this short story worth talking about? No. Let's see. So the next one is November 2002, The Fire Balloons. And this one, am I having a hard time remembering this?
Me too. I'm like reading it and I don't remember any of this.
I don't either. This doesn't sound familiar at all. Was this even in the book?
It might not have been.
Because
It's like talking about religious cleansing. I don't remember any of that.
I don't either. No, I don't remember any of that. All right, we're skipping that one. So perhaps some of these chronicles aren't even in the story that we're talking about. Oh, okay. It says right here, this story first appeared as In This Sign edition of the Martian Chronicles, was included in the U.S. edition of the Illustrated Man. So maybe it wasn't included in the book that we listened to.
It was included in the 1997 edition of the Martian Chronicles.
Interesting.
Apparently, it only appears in special editions, which I guess we did not have.
Apparently, we did not get the special edition, so sorry about that. Let's see, what is the next one that because a lot of these aren't sounding like they were even in this.
I don't think the wilderness was in there.
The musician, I'm seeing the interim, the musician, the wilderness, so that doesn't sound familiar.
The musician is in there. That's just like about those kids, right? When they like play in that shit. And I feel like this is talking about
Yes.
like freaking Fahrenheit 451 stuff happening on Earth at the same time.
Yeah, right, because they would go play in the ashes, right? And that's how their
Yeah.
parents knew they were playing somewhere they weren't supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's right. It talks about the firemen completing their missions. That's right. Okay, you're right. Let's see. Way in the middle of the air. Yep. This is okay. So here,
Oh
this
yeah,
is
this is your trigger warning.
This is where your trigger warning comes in, because this one is about Samuel Teese, and he is a white, very racist man. And from what
I like that Ray Bradbury predicted that people are still racist in the future, like they are now.
I see that, yeah, I see that he explained that in a publication that's why he wrote this way. That's crazy. But either way, basically what this story is about at this point, so this is 2003, and at this point, Mars is essentially like colonized. People have been living there for years and years, which is still weird because they've only been there for 2 years, technically.
Yeah.
But the way a lot of these settlements they talk about this is what I meant too, where we start slipping out of the sci-fi and into just like stories of people. So this is one of those, basically just stories of people. And this one happens to be about this Samuel Teese, who's basically an old white man living on Mars, who I'm assuming they are like slave owners essentially too. Or at the very least,
they live on Earth, don't they? Because all the black people are going to Mars.
That's right. They're going to Mars. Yes, you're correct. Yes. Yeah, I was mistaken.
So yeah, but this one is about basically like all of this. I don't know if they're slaves. It sounds like they just have really nasty contracts on these African American people. And
yeah,
so
because
ahead, sorry.
Well, I was just gonna say this guy Teese, like the only part we really get as to why like this other kid is working for him, Belter, that's the kid's name, is that because he owes Teese $50. So he's working off his debt to Teese. However, Teese happens to be a white man who is very racist in this story, and Belter happens to be a black man. And that's, again, this is the like heavy trigger warning stuff, because they just indiscriminately use the N-word in this story as well. So
And I don't think the whole plot of this story is that all the African Americans are leaving Earth and going to Mars because they're like fed up with all the bullshit.
exactly.
But they're just leaving, and they're all leaving today, and none of them are staying.
Right. They literally describe it as like a river of people going down the street that will not stop no matter what's happening. And when others in the group see that Belter cannot leave because Teese won't let him, several of them come over, see what's happening, and Teese basically says, he owes me $50. He can't leave till he pays off his debt. And this other old man is like, 25 of you pay up $2 and we can set this man free. So they all do. They pay Teese right there on the spot and say, now this, he's no longer in your debt. He's leaving. And what I kind of get by the end of this though, right? Because as Belter is leaving, doesn't he say something like,
what are you going to do at night?
Yeah, what will you do at night? And isn't that because then you get like the fact that Teese basically is like incredibly racist?
Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure doing like Ku Klux Klan shit is what he's talking about.
Yeah, or like dragging people behind his car type shit. Yeah, so that's obviously why they are all leaving, is because this again, and this was written during a time when this stuff was obviously heavy and
Oh yeah.
very much so happening. However, I mean, like, it's just it's an interesting take on the unfortunate situation, that existed back in the 60s and 70s and possibly even still today, a lot of people would argue. So,
But I feel like it is still kind of like a feel good story because it's like it's all the African American people basically just saying fuck you.
right. And getting to and
Yeah,
leaving.
and getting to say fuck
Yeah.
you, we're out.
Yeah, and they all leave. They all literally pooled their money together to buy rocket ships to fly away from this planet, which is just, it is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So is the next one
I think
Usher 2
yeah, where the guy makes the house.
with the house thing?
Mhm.
Yeah. Which is actually, it says, an homage to Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah, which it definitely is.
Yeah, for sure.
All of the way he kills those people are from Poe's stuff.
Really? Okay.
Mhm.
I didn't know that.
So yeah, this one is basically like it opens with this contractor like explaining this house to this guy, which is so good. I love that. He's like, are the walls like desolate and whatever enough? And he's like, oh, absolutely ghastly. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I like that too. And the contractor also was like, look, it was really hard to get a lot of this stuff here because they're on Mars, right?
Mhm.
So they had to break like a ton of laws to get a lot of this stuff here because, as we'll shortly find out, so shortly after humans colonized Mars, they, sort of like was predicted in one of the earlier stories, they immediately brought all their rules to Mars as
Mhm.
well. So, which in this world includes like you're not allowed to have books and stuff, right?
Yeah, which
It's almost
I
like,
feel like it's Fahrenheit 451 world.
right, exactly. I feel like it's a big almost like a non-direct continuation of, yeah, Fahrenheit 451.
You're not allowed to have like upsetting things of any kind.
Right.
And that what anybody would find upsetting in any way.
And this guy, right, he just wants to have like a big house basically full of everything he's not supposed to have, right? Like
Well,
books
he
and
made a haunted house,
that's right.
essentially.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, because like almost immediately upon completing the house, I can't remember what the guy's called. He's from something like the something coalition or something like super. He like basically lists off. He's like, this house is way too sick. You're not allowed to
It's
have a cool house like this.
so, and I only remember this because I'm looking right at it. It's Mr. Garrett, and he's an investigator of moral climates.
Yes, moral climates.
How, I mean, if that doesn't in 2 words sum up how this world works, then I don't know
Yeah.
what will.
Exactly.
And so basically, right, he invites, because Garrett is like, so correct me if I'm wrong, this dude also sent out invitations, right, to his like opening night to a ton of people, right?
Yes, but we don't know that till after what happens to Garrett.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Garrett, yeah, okay. That's right. Because Garrett comes in.
Yeah, he's like, well, would
and-
you at least look around? This house costs $4 million.
Right. Which is funny because like they say 4 million as if it's like a ton of money, but I forget this was back in like the 50s
Yeah.
or 40s. It was like in the 40s. So yeah, $4 million then in the 40s is probably like 40 million today or more.
Yeah.
So but yeah, he wants Garrett to, come on in and at least take a look before you demolish it, because the guy says he's gonna schedule it for immediate demolishment. Demolishment?
Yeah, they're gonna
Is that
burn
even
it.
a word? Demolishment?
That sounds right.
Demolition. Immediate demolition.
Is the okay? Now I'm interested about demolishment. Is that a word? Is that actually a word? Or did you just make that up?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. Is demolishment a word? I feel like it's demolition.
I think so
Demolish.
too. When you said that, I'm like, oh yeah, I guess that is the word for it. Fucking English is so weird.
Demolishment. The act of demolishing or shattering.
Yeah,
It-
okay, so it's legit.
So kinda. I mean, as long as you can trust wordnick.com.
Yeah, sounds very reliable.
Anyways. So yeah, right. Mr. Garrett goes in the house. Uh sees a bunch of spooky stuff, right?
Yeah, and he's like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is deeply upsetting.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't have these things in here. And then is pretty much immediately killed, right?
Yeah,
By
by
the gorilla
yeah.
or the ape? Yeah.
I guess it could be a gorilla.
I don't, yeah. Either way, I just like how it's like, and then he sees the ape, and the ape immediately kills Mr. Garrett.
Mhm.
Just something like that. And then this guy, Stendhal, talks to his uh
It's like assistant. I can't remember what his name is.
maybe it's Bigelow. Oh, is the guy's name Bigelow? I might be getting confused. Either way, yeah, he talks to his assistant
Pikes.
and his Pikes. Pikes has prepared a robot that looks just like Mr. Garrett that will go back to the whatever, the moral climate's place and explain that he needs to do further investigations before anything can be carried out, in thus buying them more time to have this haunted house.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, right, is when they do the party, when he sends
Yeah.
out like invitations.
Yeah. Yeah, he like invites a bunch of guests to come to his haunted house, essentially.
Yeah, and then that's where the actual like serious Edgar Allan Poe stuff kind of happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's weird too, right? Because like, aren't they like? I didn't fully understand it, if I'm honest. Aren't they? Are they watching copies of themselves be killed, or are copies watching the real person be killed?
Copies are watching the real people get killed.
Oh my god, that's so dark.
Yeah, so he starts having this party, and then they figure out that the Garrett that they killed was actually just a robot. And
Yeah.
so Garrett shows back up, and he's like, "Oh, you thought I would send my real self, you fool? Well, I'm here now, legitimately." And he
Yeah.
like invites him in. He's like, "Well, I'm already having the party. You can't destroy it while the guests are here." And like as the guests are there, they start dying. Well, they start like quote unquote dying in these like Edgar Allan Poe ways. Like one of the ladies gets like stuffed up the freaking chimney, and like a bunch of other stuff happens. But then they're like, "Oh man, the person died." But then they're like, "Oh no, that was a copy of me. I'm fine." And then he talks to Garrett, right? And he's like, "Man, this is truly horrible. This is like disgusting, right?" But then he tells him the truth. He's like, "Actually, I'm killing the real ones, and these are all copies, and there's no way you're getting out of here."
Right.
And he buries him alive, essentially,
Yeah.
which is one of Poe's books. I can't remember which one. So it's one of his poems.
The premature burial, it looks like. Either way, right? And then Stendhal and Pikes actually end up leaving, right?
Mhm.
And basically like collapsing the house in on itself.
Yeah, and he explains to Garrett that he's killing him because he didn't read Edgar Allan Poe, and he knows he didn't read it because he never would have came in the house if he did.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and they do, and yeah, and the house like falls apart in on itself. Yeah, and that's the end of that one. But I think that one's really good.
Yeah, I actually really like that story too. Out of all of them, I think that's I like that one. It's really short.
It is pretty short, but it's good.
So got a couple in here that are just little in between pieces, but then you have September 2005, The Martian. This is the elderly couple.
This is the one I think I was talking about with the doppelganger.
Yep, it is. So go ahead. I'm gonna let you talk about this one.
So yeah, this one, they're like an elderly couple who's moved to Mars, and they start talking about how they miss their son Tommy, especially the dad, because he would always put like flowers on his grave every Sunday, and he misses doing that. And then one night, like out of his doorway, he sees Tommy, like which is impossible. He's been dead for years, but he sees him like out running around, and they like go to bed, but then they hear like a knock on their door, right? And Tommy's there.
Yeah, or is it the next morning that Tommy's just like there at breakfast, but he's like, you can't possibly be here. And he's like, no, it's okay. I already explained it to mom. And he like immediately just fits right back into the family.
Yeah.
It's really bizarre. But from what I gather of this, right, is Tommy is just a Martian? Right?
Yeah, I think so. So yeah, like the dad is really skeptical, and he's like, okay, but who are you really? And then they go to town, but he's like really nervous about going to town because he's like gonna get found out or made, I think is what he says.
Or trapped? Does he say he's gonna get trapped?
Yeah,
in town?
he was almost trapped. That's right.
Yeah. And they end up going to town anyways, right? They talk him
Mhm.
into going to town, but then the boy disappears. And they can't find him like all day. And the old man ends up finding out that one of his neighbors, whose daughter disappeared a long time ago, recently reappeared that day.
Mhm.
And so this old man knows, he's like, well, whoever Tommy is now that little girl, right?
Yeah, and he like begs
So
him to come back.
yeah, he goes and he's like talking to this little girl who does look exactly like the little girl that was missing, but he knows that it's not, you know, it's got to be Tommy. It's got to be whatever this thing is was Tommy just recently too. So he begs him to come back, and he does, right?
Yeah,
Sorta.
they like run back to the boat, but like as they're running back, he gets seen by a bunch of different people, and he like changes his appearance like like constantly as
Yeah,
like
and
more people recognize him.
right, and all these people start chasing them as
Mhm.
well. Um, and they get back to the boat, and there's all these people standing around, and the old man is like, no, you guys can't have him. This is not whatever little girl you say it is. This is my boy Tommy. And that lady's like, the one lady's like, that's my husband so and so.
Yeah,
And the sheriff's like, no, that's the prisoner so and so. He's supposed to be in jail.
yeah,
Like, so this Martian, I'm assuming it is appearing as all these different people at the same time to each different person.
yeah. And then he like, well, whatever it, I guess, like screams as I assume he's like being completely like overloaded and just dies.
Yeah, just yeah.
Yeah,
And
he
then
dies, and then it starts raining.
yeah, it starts raining. Yeah, this one's pretty sad. Like it's pretty
Yeah,
bleak. And then you got this one's kind of short, but it's kind of interesting. The luggage store. This is that guy who opened like a luggage store on Mars, even though people were like, it's kind of a crazy thing to do, open a luggage store on Mars. Everybody's coming here. Well, it leads very quickly into a couple of the next stories, where a lot of people go back. Let's just say.
yeah. Most of them, I think, right? If I understood
Yeah.
it.
So 2005 is called the off season. I'm trying to remember. This is the one.
Oh
This
yeah,
is
this is the hot
Park
dog
Hill.
stand. You should talk about this one.
Yeah, so this is the one I was talking about from earlier, where Park Hill, the guy who was pushed down in the second story,
I
who
didn't
had
even realize it was the same person. I'm a fucking idiot.
who had talked about opening a hot dog stand on
He
Mars.
did talk about opening a hot dog stand too. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So this story is about Park Hill. He opens his hot dog stand on Mars, and he's all excited because there's new plans for like a big mine to go in on Mars because more and more people are, moving to Mars. And he puts up his hot dog stand right where he thinks the main highway is going to go through, where the trucks are going to be going from the mine back to the city, and there's going to be a lot of traffic, right? So he's going to get rich off his Mars hot dog stand. And basically he ends up encountering Martians though, right? And it's not the first time that he's encountered Martians. And basically to him, they appear as almost like a masked figure with like it either has like a blank face, right?
Oh, I guess we forgot to talk about that the Martians wear masks.
That's what they are. They all wear masks, and they change them depending on like
how they feel.
How they feel, right? Yeah, because I remember now that you said that, in that the one where Mr. XXX shoots the people, right? His like happy face thing slips off.
Yeah, it slips off, and his happy face mask has 3 smiles on it.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's crazy.
This is one of the details I remember.
That's great. But right, this is where Park Hill comes across the Martian that wants to talk to him, and he freaking shoots this Martian.
Well, because the Martian goes to hand him something, and he thought it was a weapon.
Oh,
so
yeah.
He just blasts it.
That's right. It's like, I need you to have this, and it pulls out a tube, and he's like, a gun, and
he's like, rocket launcher, get down!
Yeah, this guy is so hillbilly. It's crazy.
And he's voice acted perfectly.
Yeah, it's really well done. So then, Park Hill, right? He had bought one of the Martian sand ships, is what they call them, from an auction.
Yeah.
So he and his wife get in this thing to flee, because after he shoots this one Martian, a bunch of other Martians appear, and he thinks they're gonna like capture him. So he flees, even though there's like a fleet of other Martian ships following him. And this is kind of where it gets confusing, because he basically ends up talking to another Martian, and the Martian's like, we don't want to take anything from you. We need to give you this. And he gives him a deed, basically, to own like a quarter or a third of the whole surface of Mars or something like that.
Right. Because I think that first Martian was trying to tell him about what was going on Earth, right?
Yeah, because, right, they look up in the sky and they can see Earth in the sky, we should mention, from Mars. It appears as like a green star. But they see like explosions from Mars on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly, like, and they had been leading up to like that there was going to be a war on Earth. And this
right,
is
a lot of
that.
the smaller vignettes kind of talk about that.
Right. And so this drives Park Hill kind of insane, because now he's like, obviously nobody's coming here now if Earth is at war.
Yeah, and his wife like mocks him. It's like, man, it's a really
God,
great
yeah.
spot for a hot dog stand.
Man, that is brutal.
It's so funny though.
Ugh, that is brutal.
Oh, typical woman. Okay.
So the Martians though, right? They like let him own like a bunch of the planet because he's one of the. I didn't really understand why, but
there's nobody there. I thought, right? Like I thought somebody had to own it or something like that, and there's just like not enough people.
I don't know, if I'm honest. I didn't really understand it.
Hey, me neither. We'll be real.
So we move on to, if I remember right too, the stories kind of get shorter towards the end. There's a lot of really short stories.
Mm-hmm. Oh, don't we move on to the Silent Towns, where it's like talking about Walter Grip when he's like one of the last people on Mars?
Yes.
And
yeah,
he gets that freaking nasty bitch.
Yeah, where he makes the phone calls.
The phone starts ringing, right?
Yeah. But he misses does he miss the call?
He missed the first one.
That's right. So then he starts calling around, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's right. He's one of the, as far as he knows, one of the last people on Mars now, because most people have gone back to Earth
Yeah.
to help with what's happening on Earth.
Hmm.
Um, that's right. His telephone rings and he misses the call. So he starts just calling like random numbers in the short Mars phone book. And he ends up dialing a deluxe beauty salon. But I love to, what's the name? Yeah, New Texas City.
Yeah.
God damn it. I love that too. That in that earlier one, that's what that one guy was disgusted of, is that we would just name everything just like we do on Earth, and then in these later stories that all comes up again.
Yeah, it does.
um that's right. So then he ends up calling this place and there's actually a woman there. So he's like blown away because there is not only another person on Mars, but there is, he is attracted to women, so he's very clearly wanting to go meet this person. Um, but when he does, right, she is just like, oof. The way he describes her is so bizarre.
Yeah. She's gross. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, like it's almost horrifying the way he describes her. Like it's pretty bad. So basically this guy finds out there's another woman on Mars. He meets her and he finds out she's horrifying. So he spends the rest of his time fleeing from her.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, his phone rings again, but he will not pick it up.
Yeah, he just ignores it.
God, that's ridiculous. So the next one is called The Long Years. And this one is
Oh, this is the one like with the guy and his family.
the one guy who came on the fourth mission, right? That's where they killed the one dude, was the fourth one, I think. So those other guys survived. And one of these guys is from that initial mission. So this is quite a bit later, too, we should mention. This is in 2026. So,
Yeah, this is a lot later.
yeah, so this is the one guy who was the geologist on that mission. He's here with his family, right?
Right, because they missed like the final rocket because they didn't know about that stuff because they weren't at their house at the time.
Right.
So they didn't know that they were supposed to be evacuating. So they
Yeah.
missed the rocket.
Right. And basically what happens is this guy's here, excuse me, with his family. This is like a normal story. They're like sitting down, having breakfast. It's almost like post-apocalyptic though, where they're living. But then the captain of that previous mission, right, shows back up.
Yeah, well, they knew a rocket was coming to get them.
Okay.
Because that's like how it starts, is like with the good news of there's a rocket arriving in the morning.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's right. But basically the captain who shows back up knows something's off about this. So this captain went from like Mars and he went to like Jupiter, then basically went all the way out to Pluto, and now he's coming back.
Yeah.
But he knows that there's something off about this guy and his family, because this was obviously a long time ago. They landed and he had his family here, but now he lands again and the man is old, but the rest of his family still looks like the day that the guy left.
Yeah.
So something's clearly off about this. And basically, long story short, the guy they're there to rescue suffers like a heart attack essentially, and dies. Well, his family members are all like robots, right?
Yeah, they're androids that he made because his actual family got sick and died.
Right.
And he was alone for so long
Oh
that he
god,
just made them.
it's brutal.
It is brutal.
Yeah. Yeah, that story is pretty heartbreaking actually.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they talk about like at the end they're getting ready to leave, and one of the crew members is like, "What should we do about the androids?" And the captain is like, "If you're a bigger man than me, you can go in there and kill them, but I don't know if I have it in me."
Right.
And so I think They leave them, right? They just leave them and they let them do their thing and they leave.
Yeah, because none of them have the wherewithal to go in and even kill these robots that this one guy loved so much.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I couldn't do that.
No, it's pretty. Yeah, it's kind of intense. And then, correct me if I'm wrong. The last one is the Million Year Picnic.
I did like the little vignette though that comes before that. That's like about the automated house that's on fucking Mars, and it's just like talking about it going through its normal stuff. I like
That's
that
right.
a lot.
That's
it's really short, but it's so good.
There will come soft rains.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay, that's right.
I mean, there's not a lot to talk about. It's just about like the house going through its daily functions without anybody being there.
Right, because it's a fully automated house. Everything in the house is automated, so it does things at specific times every day, regardless of if there are people there or not.
Yeah.
And the people in the place are dead, so it continues to just do its thing. Yeah, I thought this one was good.
And I love that when it's like talking to the woman and it's like, would you like to read a poem? Since there is no response, I will pick one for you. And then it reads this poem over all of it. Like, oh man, I don't know. It's so good.
And then this last one is the Million Year Picnic, right?
I'll be honest, I don't know if I remember this one at all.
I don't either. I don't actually. I don't remember this at all.
Wait a minute. Maybe I do.
I
This is the one, right, where they go on a quote unquote fishing trip to Mars, but like what they're really doing is
he detonates their rocket ship, right? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so they're stuck there. That's all I remember. That's it.
Yeah,
it's like he like detonates the rocket so they can't leave.
Because so basically the way I understood it is the Great War is still going on Earth. And people are trying to escape. So this man and his family make it to Mars on a quote unquote fishing trip. But it's a one-way trip. The guy detonates their rocket ship after they land. And he says that's so that when they try to find him, they won't be able to track the rocket ship. And I find it funny too that he says it's like an extremely old model rocket ship.
Mm-hmm.
Like in this world that they live in, like you can go from Earth to Mars and back in like the same day. But even with an extremely old rocket ship. And then he says, right, there's supposed to be another family coming as well, as long as they escape. But I don't think they do, right? They don't ever make it there.
Yeah, nobody else makes it, right? And he's listening to the radio on Earth, and eventually it goes silent, right?
Right.
Like there's no more radio transmissions at all.
Yeah, which he thinks means that the entire Earth is like wiped out. There's nothing left on Earth. Because of the way things were going. Basically, it's like an atomic war. Yeah, so we basically end with this family on Mars looking down at Earth, essentially. And the one kid is like asking questions about Martians, right? Will he see the Martians?
Yeah. And is this the one where he's like, anything that you want to do, you can?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And then he's like, yeah, I want to see the Martians. He's like, okay, we'll see the Martians.
Yeah.
And then he takes him to the canal, right? He's like, they look at the water reflection. He's like, look, there's Martians right there. Because there's the Martians.
Dude, yeah. So, maybe your theory is making even more sense. Because, yeah, he looks in the water and he says, look, there's the Martians. And he points to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe your like cyclical theory makes more sense now.
I don't. That's just the vibe I got from this. Is that like there was really just one civilization. It's just different times of us seeing it.
Yeah. Okay. Huh. I might have to listen to this one again because it actually gets more interesting the more I talk about it.
Yeah, the book's great. Honestly, does Ray Bradbury miss?
Well, I don't know. We've only covered a few. Might have to cover some more. The next one I would like to do is Something Wicked This Way Comes. So maybe we'll have to look at that at some point. So that's the Martian Chronicles. That turned out to be a much longer episode than I thought we were gonna have.
That's okay.
So for anyone who stuck around this long, we really appreciate it. Thank you for that. So what are we doing next time, Poe?
Oh, it's a James Patterson. What's it called?
The Summer House
Yeah.
by James Patterson, and don't let me be super disrespectful. And Brendan Du Bois.
Okay.
So yeah, look forward to that. We will be wrapping up Samurai Champloo at some point.
Yeah. Look forward to that in the next couple 6 months or 3.
Yes, please do. I know someone is on the edge of their seat.
Yeah. One guy's like, this is gonna come out, and he's like, come on.
Yeah, he's just waiting for an update, and he's gonna be like, no, they're still not doing it. Come on.
Stop interviewing Oliver Wyman and watch anime.
Yeah, seriously. Our interview with Oliver Wyman is amazing. So if you didn't listen to that, please go back.
Yeah.
and
Why
check
are you
that out.
listening to this? Go listen to that.
Yeah,
And
we
then
think
come
that
back and then listen to it again.
it's the peak of our podcast career. We think so.
It's the
just so
peak
you
of
guys
my
know.
life. What are you talking about?
For real. So yeah, definitely be sure to check that out. That was awesome, and we couldn't thank Oliver Wyman enough for agreeing to be on our little tiny podcast. So that's amazing.
Yeah, go watch his stream too on Twitch. He's Mr. Coffee with a K.
Yeah, definitely go over there, support him, and check him out. We learned a lot in the episode that we did with him. So listen to that, and you'll get a lot of insider stuff that even we, reviewing audiobooks, even, I didn't think about a lot of this stuff that he told us. So that's awesome. What else? We would greatly appreciate suggestions for our next Anime Squires series. So again, send those over to kotpl.pod@gmail.com. We talked about it in a previous episode. We just have some stipulations, so please be mindful of that stuff. But we would be open to any suggestions. We would appreciate it.
Yeah, I would say the only thing, series needs to be completed already. Try to keep it to like maybe 1 or 2 seasons, something that's not like 100 episodes, because that'll be like a whole year of Anime Squires for us.
Yeah,
And
we would like to do them weekly, but clearly we can't stick to that.
Yeah, it is what it is. And also, it's got to be dubbed, not subbed, because we don't know how to read.
Correct. That's why we listen to things. We don't read them.
Yeah, because we don't know how. Still working on that. I got a couple of the letters down.
Nice. So yeah, with that, again, thank you everyone for listening. We really appreciate it, and we hope to catch you in the next one.